Good afternoon, Frank Watkin, the 6th of June 2025. The All Ords today finished at 8741. We're up 81 points from last week's close at 8660. So we're also getting very, very close to the previous high. I guess the news of the week is Elon and Don look like having a fairly bitter sort of divorce. So far, the little tiff they're having has cost Elon probably 250 billion or something in the value of the Tesla shares. So going to be one of the more expensive divorces you'd ever dream of. I thought I'd do something different today. I keep a watch list, which I call my stalking watch list. So these are stocks that I'm interested in right at the moment, or have purchased, or just waiting for the purchase. I've had 4DS in the watch list for quite a while. The original purchase was a break of this level. Once we'd closed this tiny gap here, and then broken the resistance here at 4.2, hopped on board. I did post this one on Facebook. And then 2 very, very nice days. The third day of this run, the market opened higher. It gapped up. I immediately sold. I think I got 6.9 or something from memory. Then the next day, big red candle, and then again following that, there's 2 decent red candles. Now, the reason for pointing this out is because I'd taken a decent lump out of this and wanted to get back in. So the interesting thing was on this day, on the 2nd of June, we opened at 6. We had a high of 6.2, low of 5.5, closed at 5.6. On that day, I decided that having sold 6.9, I thought I'd put a cheeky buy in at 5.9, and lo and behold, I got them. And then, of course, it continued down. We got as low as 5.5 on the 2nd of June. And at that point, you curse yourself. I think there's a fair bit of psychology involved in this particular trade. I'd taken good money. The market came off, and I probably thought, wow, I've got this thing beat. I know exactly what it's going to do, so you jump back in. Fortunately, it rallied, and right at the moment, I'm not in a bad sort of position. But I've got to say, I was a bit early trying to get in. I'm not saying I should have got in on 3rd of June and got in even lower. I just should have given it a bit more time to percolate. However, all's well that ends well. Now I'll go through the rest of this stalking list, just commenting. AL3 hasn't broken yet. It's got to break about 17 or 18. Asia, Better Shares, ETF, really should be waiting for a break of the 1150 level. And actually looking at it, I probably will wait for a break of the 1150, but Asia, a very, very good recovery. Everything got beaten up with the initial talk on trade tariffs, but we've recovered since. AUE, I think that was a good buy once it broke back here. Nothing else doing since. It's just been cruising along relatively nicely, still in there. AUN. Now, this is one I did discuss quite a while ago. I was led to believe that directors from NST got hold of AUN, whether they are on the board, whether they've got shares or not, I don't know, but I just thought I'd follow the tip that I'd got, given that the directors of NST had done a pretty good job. I bought in here somewhere, probably, actually, look, I can't, I think it was 4.8 cents somewhere. Anyway, and I made up my mind that I was just going to hang on to these. I have a friend who bought rather a large lump of De Grey at very, very low prices and followed them all the way through to the takeover. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to hold these for as long as I can and just see what happens. So that's also cruising along nicely. AX1, I think that's getting ready to buy. I like the gap. I like the closing of the gap and the rejection. If we can now get above $2, I think AX1 will be worth a good look at. BCI, I can't say I've bought this one. Yeah, a lot of tops and tails on this. So while it has broken, I am not in it. Bendigo, yeah, we're in this. Again, it's one we put up on Facebook. Looks like having a serious crack at the gap in the relatively near future. Bannerman, still waiting for this one. I'm going to call it a long-term low, a high, and a higher low, waiting for a break of roughly that $3.20 level. I was tempted back here, but didn't, because at that time I was just waiting for a higher low setup, and we did not have it in here. So just keeping an eye on Bannerman. Chalice. Chalice, I could argue long-term significant low, that's definite. Then the high here, not much of a retracement for a higher low, and it's sort of breaking at the moment. If you weren't in on the break of the dollar, perhaps somewhere shortly you might find a buy signal. DRO, again, we had a pretty good run out of this, but we're stopped out somewhere in here. And fresh breakout in the last day or two. The old drone is moving around a bit, and I think the reason given for the recent move was that Zelensky used a lot of drones against the Ruskies or something along those lines. I'm not sure. EGL needs to break roughly that line, perhaps even lower. Perhaps you could ignore these couple of wicks, which I'll call FOMO wicks, and maybe even a break of 26 could be an entry, but I'd rather wait for 27.5 with a small entry, but a break of 30, that's the definite one as far as I'm concerned. EL8, got a few lines drawn on that, haven't done anything yet. OBV is terrific, decent volume coming into it, but uranium hasn't really done much for 6 months or so. EOS, rather nice, breaking that $1.40 level. We're now $2.30. rather nice. Evolution. This was the best entry on Evolution for the last year or two, but I have an ascending triangle drawn here. We did break. We have retraced. We've come back inside the triangle. So just need to wait and see. Stop. My stop will generally always be under the most recent, most obvious low. So this this day here, where are we? 29th of May. Sorry, stop loss is still under there. Wait and see. FHE again. I think that was a pretty good break, but did not take it. I could easily argue this is some form of wedge or flag or something. But again, the next buy really would be a break of about 25. HJPN, that pretty ugly sort of chart. It looks pretty good at the moment, but Japan is a bit all over the place at the moment. IGO, watching very intently. I think if we can crack that 450 level, we're up and away. I can argue shoulder, head and shoulder. So yeah, pretty keen on IGO if it does the right thing. IRI, I just find this fairly messy, let's say. We haven't closed this gap yet. The gap there, the low on that day is 40 cents, and the next day the high is 49. That doesn't sound right. Sorry, the low is 54, and then the high is 49.5. So there's a 4-cent gap there. We have to fill this gap for mine before we get too excited. The resistance is all shaping up fairly well. I thought back on this day we were going to have a crack at that gap. Once the gap is filled and then we break, that's the buy signal for me. Linus is all over the place. I have not entered Linus. I've had various lines drawn at various stages, but haven't managed to convince myself to get in there. Great day yesterday. Whoops, wrong way. MI6, I'm not sure why I've even got that in there. Certainly things happening. 2 billion of them out there, so fairly high issued cap. Yeah, they'd have to do a lot of work before I got interested, so I'm going to delete that from my watch list. MM8 showed a good break a couple of days ago, and again, just fading back to the breakout, a fraction below the breakout. It's fading on lower and lower and lower volume, so to my mind, that could still go for a gallop at some stage. MTM, again, I missed this one. It should have been purchased somewhere around there, break at the 30-cent level. We're now basically at 50. So unfortunately, you don't necessarily get them all. And you can tell from this stalking list, I'm just watching too much. Novonix, and again, we came up, we hit this resistance once, we hit it 2 or 3 times here, but we never really ripped through. And again, this is now potentially looking a bit shoulder, head and shoulder potential. Keep an eye on Novonix. RDX, this was going to look very, very nice, thank you, on a break of that $3 level, and it all turned pear-shape this week, so a good lesson, never preempt the breakout, and again, I'll take that out of my watch list. RSG, you can see I've used the trailing stop here and stopped out today. I do find this trailing stop tool very, very handy. But anyway, now out of Resolute. South 32, I think this is shaping up rather nicely. Significant long-term low, high, higher low. Doesn't matter really how you look at it. This I think is the big significant level. We closed this gap, we backed off. We're now going to go through it. I do like the look of South 32. There is a bit of resistance, not that far away, but got to get in there before we worry too much about the resistance. St Barb's, again, I put this up on Facebook. Probably the first time was 10 years ago, but put it up recently once it got back over 27, 28, 29. Starting to look good. So SBM now 1 billion out there. There's a bit of news out on it today, but I haven't had a chance to read it. Sigma. Sigma's been hanging around for such a long time. Very good buy signal back there, and we're getting close to another buy signal. Sigma must have had some sort of restructuring. It was last time I was looking at it seriously, I think it was about 60 cents or something. So 50 cents, yeah, not sure. But you know, shaping up again right at the moment. Silex in there, and bought the break of 330 from memory, or yeah, about 330. Just going sideways on falling volume, so no one really selling because OBV is staying flat. This Spark New Zealand, a slow burner, but showing a dividend yield of 11.4. Given the gap here, I doubt that it's going to give you 11% dividend yield, but you never know your luck in the big city. Just a tiny little rally now on balance volume, so with a gap to fill up at about $2.60. SPR, I haven't done anything with this despite being in love with this. The gap, I wasn't game to chase it once it gapped up, and not saying you shouldn't chase things if they gap up. A gap up is a sign of strength, but anyway, that one left me behind. Telstra, yeah, believe it or not, I hardly believe it myself, but bought Telstra on this break at around 425. We're now 486, and I shake my head in disbelief. Yeah, dividend yield now is 3.8 cents. Gone are the days where we got 15 cents every time we turned around and had a look. VEQ, to me, it just looks like a bit of consolidation before it carries on. I'm not involved in it. WA8, this was a bit of fun. Break of 6.5. We're now at 11.5, so rather nice. I forget the issued cap under $1 billion, so that's okay. Just waiting now for another entry. WOF, again, stopped out of that today. We got in on this break on this day here. I think we paid just over $2, 201 or something, and was looking good until the last couple of days. Westpac, I think Westpac is shaping up, and again, I put this on Facebook. I think this is shaping up a fairly long-term significant low, a high, a higher low, and we're looking for a higher high breakout. Touch wood, still a gap to fill, so we'll keep an eye on what it does once it gets through that to that gap. A Weebit Nano, nothing there for me at this stage. Got awfully close, but I think it's still worth keeping an eye on that one. Webjet, again, I took my eyes off this. I was looking for a break of whatever that is, 520, and it did, I think, break back here, but not in there. It didn't consolidate enough. I just haven't had a good buy signal. I shouldn't have taken my eye off it, but anyway, no damage done. I posted Nuff on Facebook not that long ago, and yeah, I tend to avoid these things that just die. But I keep getting asked, when should I buy Nuff? When should I buy Nuff? It's cheap. Well, it's probably cheap for a reason. But what I'd be hoping for, not necessarily expecting, is a rally back up to this resistance here, then back off a whisker, then go through, and you'd have the higher low set up, and that would do me for an entry, but I think we're a long way away from an entry on Nuff. Doug, this is pretty classic. Long-term significant low, high, low, higher low, higher high, away you go. So, okay, that's the end of the stalking list. I add one or two each week, and I delete one or two each week. Unfortunately, I tend to add more than I delete, but it just shows, I think, that on any given day there is a setup that is tradable. Doug, I think, has only just started with the rally in OBV and a couple of big days of trading. Okay, that's all I've got this week. Touch wood, I shall talk to you next week. Don't forget, if you've got any queries about the workshop in Phuket, August 9 to August 16, give us a yell, email Kylie at ProTrader. If you've got any interest at all in doing a course, just give us a yell. We'll tell you all about it. Okay, cheers. Talk to you next week.